Hi everyone! Today I'm really excited to be recording our first episode of Meet the Expert with Fly Little Dragon, where you, parents, can ask questions to our experts. So every other week we will have one of our experts come online and answer some of your questions. So if you want to submit a question, you just have to go on the Fly Little Dragon community Facebook page. So the link is in the description below and you can address your question to our expert. We will let you know 1 week in advance who's coming, and you can leave them in the comments. So I'm Matilda. I'm the co-founder of Fly Little Dragon, and I have a PhD in cognitive neuroscience. I'm a positive discipline educator, and I also have 3 young children. And this week I'm with Aki. So Aki, I will let you introduce yourself. Hi, Aki.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Aki Raymer, and I'm the founder of Parenting Paths, and I'm also a Fly Little Dragon expert. And I have a background in infant mental health. I'm a parent coach, and I also teach community college. And we're here to talk about parenting in a pandemic. So I agree. I really would not have thought this is what we would be talking about, but I hope that this time together really helps some people. I know that this is a challenging time. So
yeah and I've been lucky enough to work with you right before shelter in place started. So that's when we recorded our first video series at Fly Little Dragon. So it was back when we could still hug at the end of a very long and hardworking day,
yes.
which we will miss for now. And so this video series is on positive parenting and neuroscience, and it's going to give you practical tools for easier parenting. And we might reference some of the tools today. But since this video was recorded right before we didn't know what was coming at us, so this video is broader, but will give you lots of tools that are completely useful in our current situation. But we are going to address some of the specific questions we had from parents. And I think we're going to get started now because that's why people are here. So the first question we had was, when it comes to playing with my 4-year-old, I'm happy to do things like games, puzzle, art, and reading, but hate doing all the imaginary baby, Barbie, princess stuff. I know this is what she would be doing with her friends, but I just get so bored. How can I engage in imaginary play with her that is fun for both of us? I think that's a question that's going to be helpful to a lot of parents out there. Like, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think the first thing that I'll say is this is such a strange time, right? Because usually I'd say, you don't have to do all these things she'd be doing with her friends. She can do those things with her friends, and you can do these things that you enjoy together. But in reality, we're in a time where most people don't have other kids, especially if you have an only child or your children aren't close in age. How do you make sure that they're getting that sort of need for imaginary play, which is really important, met? I think that the first thing I would say is in some ways still the same as what I would say before, which is that it's not your job to play all day long doing Barbies and princess or whatever, if that's not something that you're interested in. So what I would say is to put a limit on it for yourself. Yes, you want to give that to your child if you can, but I might say to myself, okay, you know what? I'm going to commit to doing 20 minutes after dinner of whatever my kid wants to do. And if it's Barbies or whatever, whatever it may be for anybody listening, if it's not something I'm into, my only job is to be really present and do it with my child. And once 20 minutes is over, and my phone alarm goes off, I'm not going to say, okay, done. I don't want to make my child feel like I'm running away, but I can give myself a mental permission to go, okay, I'm going to wrap it up. So letting my child know ahead of time. The other thing is, I think imaginary play, we can actually expand our ideas of imaginary play, right? If your child is stuck in a script, that's not necessarily great for them either. So it's like, can I bring things like games where we're telling stories, right? I might say, if Matilda's my daughter and I say, Matilda, let's come up with a story. I'm gonna tell part and then you do. Okay, once there was this little bunny and it was hopping around and it got lost, and, right? Then I can say, what do you think happens next? Then I'm gonna expand that idea. I'm still using that part of the brain. In fact, maybe more so than a child getting an idea from TV or something. And then we can actually come up with things together, and maybe we play those things later if we're going to be acting things out. So I think that I'll end there. That seems like a good place to start. What do you think, Matilda?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good point. And to add on to that, you can also use what your kids do and bring into what you like doing more. So you know what? Princesses, they play puzzles too. They have to be smart and to figure things out. So why don't you put your princess dress and today we're going to play princess school. And so we are going to do puzzles together. And it can also be a great way to do school. More academic activities and let them if they want to dress up as a banana to do their math, it's fine by me. We're at home. That's the time to do that. So I think that's also a way to be oh, you know what? To be a princess, you also need to be able to do all those things, or they do crafts, or they do whatever. And so you can kind of bring her universe with yours as well. So that might be another thing you can do, because then you're not just playing pretend all day long.
That's fun. And I think it's a great idea because you're giving the child a little control, right? You're not saying, no, we're not doing princess anymore. We're saying, oh, it's time for princess school. What do princesses wear to school, right? So your child is still getting to do that, but it's not again, stuck in this certain way of doing it. So that's great advice.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the second question. Yeah. My kids have had more screen time since the beginning of shelter in place, and I worry that it's becoming too much and that it will be hard to stop. Also, how do I deal with tantrums when we turn off TV or iPads?
Okay. Do you want to start or should I?
Okay, I'll start for this one. So I think times right now are different. So we might have had clear rules on certain topics, screen being a big one of them, and we have to kind of change or adapt to that. So there's different ways to go about how to deal with the tantrums at the end of TV. So first, to be really clear of what they're going to get. Don't turn off the TV in the middle of an episode. Just imagine you were your kid and you're watching that TV show and you really want to know how it ends, and then your kids just turns off the TV and says your time is up, no TV for you anymore. That doesn't work. So it's not going to work better for a kid. And so then you can also be clear on the number of episodes or whatever, or time, depending on the activity, and then help them transition beforehand. So, and that's one of the tools we present in the video. So how to set your kid up for success. So here it's going to be I know it's hard for you when we turn off the TV because you want to have more. So let's plan an activity you want to do after. So it can be reading a book or doing a craft, whatever they like, and be so now go set up that beforehand. So if you want to do craft, just take it all out, have it ready on the table. That way when they turn off the TV, they're not oh, I'm bored and I wanted to have more. They have something to look forward to and they can move on more easily to that. And do you want to say more maybe about the part where that they're afraid that the rules and habits change around screen time? You want to say more about
I think the rules and habits are going to change around screen time right now because we're living in a different reality, and they've definitely changed at my house. I'm not super thrilled with how much screen time, or phone time I should say at this point, my daughter's getting. But I also realize, my reality is different, her reality is different. I think that it's going to go back to, it's going to change again when our children go back to school or go back to the real world. And that's just going to be inevitable because they're not going to be home all day long, right? So I think that that'll sort of take care of itself to some extent. But in terms of what's happening right now, I really like your advice, right? We need to be really clear for ourselves because sometimes we're wishy-washy. We don't really want our kids on screen all day, but we have to be on Zoom meetings or we have all these other things to take care of. And so sometimes it's easier if we say, oh, we're not going to watch TV. And then it's oh, shoot, I have that Zoom meeting. Okay, you can watch TV. So the child gets sort of trained, for lack of a better word, to think if I just poke you enough, you're going to give it to me because I can't be really annoying while you're on the Zoom call. So I'll just be extra annoying. So I think being able to look at your own schedule, and you actually were talking about this, Matilda, earlier, it doesn't have to be that you say every day you get one show and that's it. It can be, hey, I looked at my schedule today, I'm going to be on a Zoom meeting, or I'm going to be whatever you're doing in your particular house. From 3 to 4, I really need some time where my child's not going to be in my face. So I can say, you know what, we're going to have lunch and then it's going to be time to do crafts. What do you want to do? And as soon as crafts are over, it's going to be time for you to do your show. Which show are you going to watch? Great, right? So then I can actually let my child know ahead of time. I've got a clear cutoff date or time for myself. And then the other option, if you do have a lot more flexibility, is to give your child the control. So you might say, look, I've decided for myself that I'm going to give my kid a pass. I'm going to give my kid this piece of paper, and that means 1 hour of screen time, and they can use it anytime they want. So that when my child has used it and they say, can I watch TV or can I get on the iPad? You can say, oh, do you still have your pass? And they go, no, I used it. You can say, oh, shoot, well, you used up all your time for today. It's a very concrete way for children to feel in control, and they may not like it. I think the other question was how to handle the tantrums, right?
Yeah.
Children are they're going to let you know when they're unhappy about something.
Yeah.
And the key is to be able to know, like to look at it and go, is it really, am I being a horrible parent if I cut off or turn off the TV after an hour? Or am I somehow doing damage to my child? No. Okay, then I've got to be able to tolerate my child's discomfort and be able to say, oh, I know you're really bummed. Like you wish you could watch it all day. And we're actually, your time's up. We could do an hour a day. So I'm sorry you're disappointed. Can I help you find something else to do while you stay calm? Because the more you get out of sorts, your child is either going to feed off of that because they see you're getting out of sorts, or they're going to feed off of it in terms of mirroring it and get more distressed themselves. So the real key to really all parenting, I think, is can you control yourself so that you can stay calm.
But I really like the idea of the free pass. I might steal it from you because I like that kids have control over the screen use, and it can be a free pass for the day, I guess, but it could also work for like you have 3 passes a week and you use it however you want, depending on the child's age as well, because it might be a difficult concept to grasp for a 3-year-old. But
it can really
like a week.
It can really, you're right. 3-year-olds, it won't work over a week necessarily as well.
For an older kid it might.
But I think that concrete thing can really be helpful for kids, even young kids, right? Because it's very visible, and as long as you're consistent, that's the key. Right?
Yeah. Okay, good. Question number 3: how to deal with children's stress and anxiety in the context of the pandemic and moving on also post-lockdown. So I'll go ahead with this one. So in the next few days, we have an article with some great tools on stress that's coming out, and that's going to help you understand what are your factors of stress, because there are like 4 main factors. And so understanding what makes you tick, like what makes you get stressed, is very helpful just to lower your stress, because you're like, oh, I know that's something that's going to make me react, so I might not be completely objective about the situation, but also understanding what makes your child actually feel stressed. So that's the first part, like understanding yourself better, and also be very open in your questions. So don't put ideas in their mind when you're trying to understand why they're stressed. Be like, oh, you're very stressed because you don't want to do that. Because most of the time we project our own fears or what would make us stress, and sometimes it's something very different. So the more open-ended are your question, and the better you're going to have an idea. And sometimes we think it's a whole thing, and it's actually just a tiny bit they're upset about. And so if we can figure that out, it's much easier than to lower their stress level and anxiety. And link to the articles will be also in the description below. What do you want to add on stress, anxiety in that context?
Well, I think it's, you said the article is going to be coming out, and that'll be linked to this video. Is that right? Awesome. I was going to ask, I want to read that one actually. I think, the only other thing I'd really say is that, as you said, we don't want to put ideas in our children's head. And a lot of times when our children are anxious, we're also anxious, right? So it's not like our kids exist in a bubble. This is an anxiety provoking time. Even if you're not super worried about COVID, which a lot of us are, we're stressed about our jobs. We're stressed about financial uncertainties. We're just stressed about the fact that our life is changing so quickly. And so our children are going to pick up on that. And so having a little bit of grace, like knowing that stress is a very natural part of being a human being, I think is really important. And then if you can, doing very concrete things to address. So, I might say to my child, gosh, it seems like you are, you're feeling worried. Can you tell me about it? And if they're able to talk about it, or if you think you have a sense, you can say, oh, you've been hearing a lot about people, being worried about being sick. Well, let's think about some ways we can protect ourselves. So maybe it's about masks, maybe it's about, washing our hands or whatever, so that they feel like there's something very concrete that you're doing, so that you can, say, we're doing everything we can to stay safe. We're staying home, we're not going near people. And I know that part's kind of hard, but we're doing this to keep everybody safe. So I think just addressing whatever it is that you think your child is being stressed or feeling stressed about.
Yeah, that's a good point. Moving on to, what tricks do you have to help by preschooler with social distancing, washing hands, putting on a mask? So yeah, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. I don't think
I'm actually struggling with that myself.
Yes, you have preschoolers. Yes. I think that nobody wants to put on masks or wash their hands or do this thing. So imagine being a little person who doesn't really understand what's going on in the world, right? And also, even if I was a kid who was a rule follower, who I really understood, okay, my parents don't want me to go out without a mask, or they don't want me to get close to my friends if I see them. In the moment, I don't have the brain development to say, you know what, I'm not feeling quite like I'm 6 feet apart. I also don't even really understand what that is, right? So there's so many different aspects to what we're talking about here. I think a couple of things that I would suggest is, again, just being super concrete. Like we've been hearing, there's a ton of information about how long each song should be, right? You could sing a certain song while you wash hands, or make sure it's part of your routine. As soon as we get home from being outside, we wash our hands, or we use hand sanitizer, or whatever it is that you've created for your home. So having it be consistent and predictable, and something that you follow through with. And then, of course, children at that age, they want control, right? So as much as possible, giving them control. Oh, do you want to use hand sanitizer, or you want to use soap, or which soap do you want to use, or whatever it is, as much as you can, giving them control over the issues. In the moments when a child is not willing to cooperate, being very clear that means now that there are sort of like that if they don't, then there's going to be certain things that happen. So it might be, you know what, you decided you're not going to wear your mask, and that's your choice. I can't make you wear your mask, but then I'm going to carry you. You're going to stay in your stroller because I'm worried about you getting too close to people. So if you decide to put on your mask, let me know, and then you can get down, right? So we want to be really clear on sort of cause and effect. And then the last part is modeling, right? So it's like, I want to make sure that I'm doing the same thing. I might say, oh, there's my friend Matilda with my child there. Oh, Matilda, oh, I wish I could give Matilda a hug, but right now we're trying to stay safe. So it's much better if we wave, hi, Matilda, right? So I'm going to do things like that, or I'm going to use very concrete things like saying, hey, Matilda, let's get together if I am spending time with a friend. We're going to have a picnic. So you bring a blanket and I'll bring a blanket, and here's a big circle. This is your circle and here's my circle. And we have to stay in our circles. So again, a child has a very clear visual reference. And then the last thing I would say is, like, you can use play. So it's like, if it's about putting on masks or washing hands, instead of saying, oh, Matilda doesn't want to put on her mask, I can say, hey, Matilda, look, Teddy needs to wear her mask. Like, she doesn't want to wear it. What should we do? Can you show her how you do your mask? Oh yeah, see, Teddy, look how Matilda does it. And like, have the child, if they're old enough and cognizant enough and not too old, be part of the process of being the expert around it, because then you have more to refer back to.
Yeah, and also one thing that might work is like have them involved in the mask in a way or another. So for us, it was finding one that you can color. They were like, they colored it. So now I'm like, oh, when we're going to go out and about, people can see how colorful it is, how nice you put the colors, so that they actually want to show it off, or like find a very cute and attractive one that they are going to want to wear. Maybe like a all black mask is not going to look super attractive to kids compared to one with, I don't know, like rainbows and unicorns or whatever they're into. So that might also be a very simple trick that might actually be helpful.
That's a great tip. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Back to control, right? They want the control. So I like that one.
Oh, that's true. My daughter is super clingy now that she doesn't have friends to play. I can play 24/7. How to not feel guilty? How many hours per day should I play with her? So,
want to start?
Yeah. So, well, there's no right amount of time to play with your kid. That's the first thing. And one day it might be like you're gonna play a lot with your kid, and one day less. And I mean, that's okay. And it's really hard for parents to not feel guilty. And yeah, you want to go ahead because
Yeah. So I think that I would add that, yeah, what you said, there's no like every day you should play with your child for 20 minutes or 3 hours or 5 hours. I think that it is about what's going on in your life right now, what makes the most sense. But, it sounds like, I think that the person said that their child is really clingy. And I don't know if that started before shelter in place or if that's something that's new. But I think we need to also pay attention to that. Like,
yeah.
is your child feeling anxious? Do we want to find ways that your child can be close to you? So if you are doing work, can you set them up with something to do that's close to you? Can you come up with a little signal with your child? What if they want your attention? You can be very clear and say, when I'm on the phone, I can't talk to you or I can't play with you, but if you want, you can hold my hand, or if I go like this means 1 minute, right? So you can be really clear about that, and also like provide as much routine and structure as possible, because when kids are in that state of being anxious, they want to know what to expect and they want to know that the world is predictable. So I would add that in, even though it's not directly related to it. And in terms of playing, I would maybe introduce a specific time of day when your child can count on you playing with them, right? So you can say, because it's kind of hard, right? They're home all day, and then if parents are working or they've got other things going on, it's like, but I'm here and you're here, right? Like, why aren't you playing with me? So being able to say, every day after lunch, I'm gonna not plan anything else, and we're gonna play together for an hour, or whatever it is that makes sense for you, I think is maybe something that parents can do. Or it doesn't have to be an hour, 20 minutes, whatever. So that there's some predictability. But helping your child, because if they're bored or they don't know what else to do, also taking some time, if they're at that age where they can sit down and say, I can't play with you all day, and I know that you can get bored sometimes. Let's think about things that you can do. What are some things that you would like to do in the day? Oh, you could do art. Let's make a list, right? Oh, you want to watch TV? Great. You can watch one show a day. So let's make sure we write that down so that your child has something where they're able to reference it, and you can also reference it in that time. If they're asking for your attention, you can say, I can't play with you because I'm about to get on a call, but let's look real quick at your list. Do you want to do this or this? Okay, great. Why don't you can do it in your room, or you can come sit right next to me, as long as you can be quiet, again, depending on the child and the age. So these are different ways that I think we can manage it. But don't feel guilty if you don't play with your child all day. It's also good for our children to learn how to entertain themselves. It's not our jobs as parents to be playing with them 24/7, and it's not, believe it or not, even good for our kids to have our attention 24/7. And so give yourself a little permission to not feel guilty about that.
Yeah, and about the list, what we have in our house. So we made a list of all the things we like to do. We cut small paper and put it in a box that when they're bored, I can be like, oh, go pick 2 papers and choose whatever activity sounds the most fun right now. We also have, I didn't think of that, but we have activity cards on the website. So I will also put the link in the description. I have to remember to put all of that, but that can give ideas. So because you print them, and there's some that they can do with parents, some they can do alone, some inside, outside. So that might also be a good idea of easy stuff you can do with them. And I would also add on to the fact that you can also see what time of the day your kid struggles the most, because sometimes in the morning they're still fresh and they're still really able to find occupation, whereas maybe toward the end of the day it's harder. So if you notice a pattern where you're like, oh, that's funny, like every day at, I don't know, like 11, my kid is having such a hard time, I'm trying to put food on the table and things are going rough, well then maybe when they're all fresh and in a good mood at 9, do your cooking right then, and that way you're available around 11 to be with them. So that's also a good way of respecting your own schedule and theirs. And also some stuff you can do, because it's really hard to practice self-care right now. That's the first thing that went out of the windows for most parents, I guess. And so it can also be, how can you include kids within that? So if you have hobbies or things you like to do, I don't know, if you like drawing, you can be like, you know what, we're going to do drawing, but I'm going to do drawing too. So I'm not going to do your drawing all the time or lead the activity, but just be like, okay, let's pick out pencils and crayons. I do mine, you do yours, or whatever the activity is. Try to find ways where you can kind of parallel play together or have your own hobby or activity that helps you feel good.
Love it. Yeah, great idea.
So we have two more to go through. My child, who is 7, already has the propensity to be kind of a loner. He is loving shelter in place, and I'm slightly concerned that this will only perpetuate his tendencies. Just let it be. What's the balance between letting a kid be himself and pushing him to try new things out of his comfort zone? So yeah, that's a good question. I think like some kids who are more introverts, uh, like for them it's going to be a bit easier, the shelter in place, where for some extroverts it might have been harder, like having less social time. However, it's not because the kid is an introvert that they don't need the connection, like they need it just as much, maybe not in the same way or with as many people. So what could be a good way, especially with a 7-year-old, it's not that easy to have Zoom meetings. I think like pre-teen and teen, it's easy for them because they have more means of communicating with kids their own age, and they're better at doing that. They can just be busy talking, they don't have to play as much and run around. So a good way could be like to see with adults around you, so uncles, aunts, grandparents, friends of the family, if they can set up a time where they play some games, or where they talk, or where they read books together, so that your child still gets that social time, but in an easy way for you as well, because I feel like sometimes it's just be like, oh, I need to give social time to my kids, so I need to plan a Zoom meeting and contact the parent and all of that. It's a lot of work, because then the parents, like, they're not here at that time, so it's a lot of scheduling, and it might be easier maybe with grandparents, or over adults rather than kids.
Even on Zoom, right? Like even if they're not there in person, they're probably going to be able to more consistently show up.
Sure.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I would agree. I think we're always, no matter whether you have an extrovert or an introvert, we're always, every parent is struggling with, how do I honor who my kid is? And also like, how much do I push them? Do I not, am I pushing them too much? Am I pushing them too little? I think that, we have to remember, we don't know how long this is going to last, but it is going to end. Our children are going to be back into the regular world, just out of like the natural way of things. Your child is going to be forced to go back to school at some point and to interact with people. So I think that we have to remember that what's happening right now is not what's going to be happening forever. So yes, your child may enjoy shelter in place. Yes, it may even push them even more into being an introvert, but it is at some point just not going to be the way that the world is. So I think that it's going to in some ways fix itself. And I love Matilda's ideas of, finding ways for people in your life who are able to show up and hang out with your child. The only thing I would really add is, like, can you think about something that your child is really interested in, and are there ways for that child to participate? Maybe it's with other friends who are into the same thing that they are, so can they participate in something like that virtually? Are there friends who would be committed to doing that? Or even if you are feeling comfortable, a lot of families I know, as time is going on, if they feel like their children are old enough and capable of enough of social distancing, is it that they are, sitting far away enough from each other, but they're both like working on something or reading something? Just having someone there, either virtually or in person, can be a step in the right direction, I think. But I wouldn't worry too much about the fact that your child's going to be like a hermit forever because of this shelter in place. And I get that feeling, right? Like, I get being worried about that, but I would take the pressure off of yourself, because the more you push your child, the more honestly resistant they're probably going to be to it. And so it's kind of a catch-22, right? So being able to like encourage them to spend time with the family, maybe even if it's just you and your child, can you go on hikes or play ball or whatever it is that you enjoy doing? Just getting them out of their room and getting them going, that can be enough. And if they're resistant to that, maybe if there's something they love, you can say, yeah, you can do that thing you really love as soon as we finish our picnic, because we're going to have lunch at a picnic. Then you can come home and be in your room again. Like, making that the natural of order of things is just shifting your daily routine just a little bit to include maybe outings or interaction with other people.
Yeah, very good point. We got another question, which very late one, but it's here. So,
Okay.
how do you balance the need for academic growth, adequate playtime, and social development skills of our kids when handling it all from home as working parents, all the same while staying sane? I am also wondering what the impact this constant one-on-one attention is going to have on our kids now and once they have to go back to a more traditional schooling environment. So there's a lot of, I mean, it's kind of, I guess, the questions every parent has right now. And so there's different parts to it. So from the one-on-one attention point, where like the parent is worried that then at school they're not going to get so much focused attention, I think probably a lot of kids won't care because they will have their friends, they will socialize, they will be able to run around, play tag, all the things that they need to do as kids. So they need you right now to do the one-on-one time because they don't have all those other sources of fun and entertainment, but they probably won't need it as much after that. And on the part of like managing like the balance with academic, playtime, social development, all of that, right now we are trying to be tutors, teachers, parents, hair stylists, whatever, like we are doing it all. But our main job has to remain being a parent. Like it has to trend the rest. Like if your child is very struggling with academic and it's putting a strain on the relationship, academic is important, but nothing is going to happen if they're not feeling connected, if they're not feeling good with you. So when you see that you have more challenges maybe with the work, it's important just to go back to having fun, or even like do academics while cooking, while you can do math while you like kick a ball, or you can do math outside with a chalk and just write numbers and they have to jump on it. So there's a lot of different ways to have fun before you do the academic, because you have that one-on-one time that the teacher cannot have with your kids. So it might be a good way to go about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think I think you said all of us are asking that question. I think you and I are also asking that question, right? How do we do it real? How do we like, okay, I'm a parent and yes, I supported my kid in doing her homework before, but now it's like a whole different situation. And how do I make sure that, like, how do I make sure everything's consistent and she has a sense of like that there's normal, and then but how do I also make sure that my child is like, that I'm accounting for the fact that we're in a global pandemic and we're in a time of like civil unrest and all these things are happening. These things are all a real thing. And so we can't actually superimpose life as it was just a few months ago into what's happening right now. A lot of us, I think, want to say, okay, we want to keep things normal and we want to keep things going a certain way. And it's just not realistic and it's not really fair to ourselves or to our children. And so I think being able to know that our primary role, as you said, are as being parents, and maybe shift the narrative a little bit and think about this, we're not probably going to get a chance to spend this kind of time with our children ever again, really, in their lifetimes, right? If you are home and you're not having to work. So if you're able to spend time with your child, can you let that be a positive? Can you enjoy that time? Know that life is going to at some point go back to normal. And if you do have older children, because I agree, you can do things like math while you do balls and play outside. And if you can do that, that's excellent. And also know that it's not the end of the world if your child isn't academically exactly on task the way that they would be if this wasn't going on. But if your child is older and they're resistant, it's like thinking about how you can actually build academic time in with other stuff. Because as Matilda said, and I think you didn't even say this in the introduction, Matilda, but Matilda's a neuroscientist, right? She knows how the brain works. And it's not just her saying, oh, if they're not feeling connected, they can't do work or whatever. It's actually partly how the brain works, right, Matilda, right? So like if stress hormones are invading their brain because they're fighting with us all day about whether they've done their math, they can't actually focus on their math. So we really want to make sure that we balance those things. And in order to figure out what it's going to be like when we all go back, or part of the question was, I'm concerned or I wonder what the impact will be. We don't know. We don't know what the impact will be. But unlike any other time in history, all of the children in all of the country in some cases the world, are going to be going back to school around the same time, and everybody's going to be dealing with it. And I can guarantee that most kids are not going to necessarily be academically where we expect them to be. you know, where we would have expected them to be otherwise. And not all of the kids are going to have a super smooth transition to feeling totally normal about interacting with other people. And so this is going to be a wobbly time that we're all going to figure out together. And so I wouldn't spend a lot of energy worrying about what's going to happen then, because honestly, we don't know. We don't know, and nobody really knows. So as you know, things are changing day to day just in our world right now. So I would kind of take that stress off the table if you can.
And I think like that's a very good point you raise, is that we are all going through this together. So, you know, like all kids go through different hardships, like loss or things like that, but usually they're alone in that. But all the kids are going through the exact same thing. So it might also be the good time to, you know, tap into our empathy and compassion and realize that we are all going through the exact same things, and that people, children, adults are going to react differently, but that we can have, you know, compassion for that too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that was our last question. It was really fun answering all of them. Is there anything else you want to add, Aki?
I think the only thing I would say is, you know, like Matilda said, we recorded a whole series of parenting videos literally right before this happened, and you know, as she was saying, you know, we got to hug each other and say, oh yay, we did it, and then this global pandemic overtook the world. And so, you know, we do offer a lot of strategies, and we came together today because we really wanted to address specifically how to parent during a global pandemic, which again, none of us would have imagined should have been a topic of our video. We wanted to add that, but we do have so many more tools, specific tools. There's a workbook involved. So if this is something that would be helpful to you, you know, I just kind of wanted to mention that we did put that out. I don't know when it's going to come out or how it's going to come out, but wanted to just put that out there, that we did collaborate on that. Just what fun it was, and how cool it was to get to see you in person. I haven't seen you really since that happened. So
No, yeah, I've seen you through screens,
yes.
like most of us. But yeah, no, it should be out in the next couple of weeks, beginning of July to the latest. Fingers crossed. But it's almost there. We're in the finish line, so that's really exciting. And so yeah, the link will be in the description below. And for the next video, we are gonna have Matt from Creativity by Matt. So he's great. He does hands-on activities with kids, and he's gonna answer all of your questions about how to set up an environment to do crafts with your kid, how to help them do more independent crafts, and how to be creative. And so he's really cool, and that's gonna be a great episode too. So I will put all of the links below, and you will also, so please, if you want to ask questions, join the Facebook group Fly Little Dragon community, because that's where all of those things, all the printables, all the things you can get from Fly Little Dragons are right now. So yeah, I think that's it for today. It was really fun getting to do that with you again. I wish it could be in person, but hopefully one day.
All right. Thank you so much. I really
Thank you.
Yeah, and everybody's doing great. We'll be okay.